Here are my extended thoughts on Astralojia for the PC. I received a free copy of the game by the developer Astral Cat for full disclosure. I also want to acknowledge my bias. I have a hard time liking indie games, and that will come through here. So here's my opinion on Astralojia Episode 1. Prior to playing the game, I investigated it and I immediately determined the game did not fit my normal criteria. The graphics, visuals, and gameplay were all reminiscent of a variety of student-made games I've played in art school. What I saw was a bare-bones game that would better fit pre-alpha development rather than a full release. Upon playing Episode 1 to completion, unfortunately my opinion on the game hasn't changed much. It did, however, eventually provide an enjoyable experience I don't regret experiencing. As with most games out there, the longer you play them, the more you understand and the more accustomed you become. This game was no different in that regard. Despite just being a 2-hour experience, I managed to walk away from the game having a good time. The beginning of the game is a very rough start though. The story is sparse and the main character Taku might be the most unlikable protagonist I've ever had the displeasure of playing next to Emil from Tales of Symphonia: Dawn of the New World. He's arrogant, rude, whiny, and has no redeeming qualities, and a few flashback segments which expand on his backstory and motivations about midway through the game. They only reinforce his lack of respect. This all changes about 75% into the game when he finally meets his friend Juno. Juno is nice, friendly, understanding, and miraculously somehow Taku's friend. He brings a great perspective and opens up a great number of fun interactions between themselves and on others. And at the very end, they meet another character who once again deepens their friendly banter. By the end of the game, it's less about how horrible Taku is and more about how these 2 or 3 friends cope with each other and balance one another. This is a wonderful highlight to experience at the end of the game, which is a stark contrast to the beginning. The combat of the game also grows more enjoyable with experience, although the balance of the systems it uses may not be so synergistic. To explain the combat in depth would be quite lengthy, which could be a testament to the combat, but it feels to work against one another. To be as simplistic as possible, to win a fight in Astralojia requires good to acceptable RNG. The longer a battle drags on, the higher chance it becomes rocket tag, also known as the next person to hit is the winner. Because there are no random encounters, you can only fight enemies a single time, and because the only reliable method of healing is leveling up, the combat exhibits an extreme learning curve and many progression walls. If you cannot beat the enemy in front of you, what makes you think you can beat the enemy 2 screens down? If you can't defeat an enemy, you can't get healed. As you grow to understand how to play the combat, a certain level of mastery can be displayed. However, it once again falls on RNG to be the gatekeeper of success and a reset. And unfortunately, success can sometimes be a loss. If you take too much damage in a fight, it would be the most beneficial to restart and do the fight over again, hoping for a higher HP value at the end that allows for progression. To the developer, my suggestions for improvements may go against your core values for this game. In conducting my research, I read your updates on Steam and noticed you have a very particular outlook on where you want this game to go. You want this game to be difficult and you want players to re-strategize upon a failure. As it currently stands with Episode 1, I don't think those 2 desires can be accomplished at the same time. Your game is difficult, however there are no options for re-strategizing. If you lose a fight, it's not as simple as changing around a few skills and trying again. Battles are limited, money is scarce, and each victory is reliant on RNG. In my opinion, I feel as though you draw a few concepts and ideals from Dark Souls, but they didn't translate well. I say Dark Souls because your outlook fits the style of the game perfectly, whereas if you call back to an old school RPG, it's usually brute force and grinding. My first suggestion is the game would benefit from a reliable and consistent method of healing. Defending in combat is a nice addition because it heals, but it seems it offers no other purpose other than that. Additionally, because of issues outlined prior such as rocket tag, the damage taken far outweighs any proper use of the defend command. If I had my way, I would opt for items, whether they are drops, purchases, or a consumable with charges like Dark Souls. A way to heal will reduce the difficulty of the game as it currently stands, but allow you to produce more challenges that extend far beyond damage. My next suggestion is to allow grinding. I don't believe you have any intention of removing the RNG mechanic from the game, so this would fit nicely with the ability to heal. Yes, nobody wants to spend days on end gaining levels so they can beat the next boss. However, as it currently stands, if you can't beat the regular enemy in front of you, what hopes do you have against the bosses later on? Grinding is a fundamental pillar that serves a great purpose. It allows for progression if someone finds themselves stuck. There are currently no viable options to re-strategize in Astralojia. However, if you can fight enemies multiple times, 1 or 2 level ups could prove very valuable. If not experience being gained in battle, a little extra money to purchase healing items or skills to assist in battle. My last suggestion is a bundle: the camera, music levels, and the world. The camera is extremely problematic and really detracts from the exploration and travel. The camera following Taku is the simplest solution here. However, rebuilding the environments and having a static camera is another more time-consuming one. For the music, I believe I encountered a couple of issues. The first being that there are some instances where the music fails to loop. This occurs on the title screen and perhaps in-game as well. I'm not certain because a large portion of the game I actually couldn't hear any music at all. The last issue is the volume of the music tracks needs to be adjusted, especially on the title screen and the final fight. They were both extremely loud with no way to reduce their volume. And while I'm here, I'll also add an options menu on the title screen would be very welcome. And for the world, I would like to see one exist narratively. The majority of the game is forests and a few towns. These locations offer very little visual stimulation for the player. In other words, there are little to no unique aspects about them when they are compared to others. This game would benefit greatly from small touches that provide some visual changes and potentially new options of narrative. For example, a grave in the middle of the forest with a message from the caretaker, or perhaps a large rock with unique flowers growing around it. When it comes to towns, librarians are mentioned a few times, but their books aren't accessible. The librarians are a great opportunity to learn about the world Taku lives in, while the students are great opportunities to learn about their society. Finally, the townsfolk can provide a better foundation and familiarity with the area Taku is in and provide hints or nearby secrets or quests. So to reiterate my thoughts on Astralojia Episode 1, it's not a game for me. It looks, feels, and plays like a pre-alpha game in development. It's experimenting with ideas and attempting to find synergy in its systems and mechanics. And yet, despite these issues, I still enjoyed the experience. Despite the lack of tutorial, by the way, you should create one of those too. I eventually found out how to play, and once I did, I started making good progress. Despite Taku being a horrible human being, his friends rein him in a little and help balance Taku's story even though they are introduced so late in the game. I'll end with this. Astralojia needs more time in development. It would benefit a lot from additional features, content, and playtesting of ideas. But above all else, I encourage you to keep going. In a recent post you made on September 5th, 2019, you noted a new series direction, and I couldn't help but read defeat in your words. One of the greatest poisons to art is valuing success above your passion and enjoyment. I firmly believe you should continue developing Astralojia because it's something you enjoy doing, not because you want to see commercial or local success. You'll find the lack of success will stop affecting you, while the success that could come down the road will be so much more rewarding. Just my opinion though. Thanks so much for the opportunity to play Astralojia Episode 1.